thank you, man. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I've been a Dawkins fan, since 1984. And when I saw this interview opportunity to come along, and I said, man, I just can't wait to talk to you. I really appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Oh, well, my pleasure, and I'm happy to do it.
And the first thing I wanted to ask you is when I heard that the End Machine, was coming out, and that was the lineup. I was amazed. I mean, the album is fantastic, and I know you and the other guys, have a lot of projects that you're doing and everything. Excuse me. How did this come about? Squeezing this in among everything else that you're doing.
Yeah, squeezing. That's a good use of a word. Well, basically, George and I like to work together, at any chance we get. Pretty much. We're easy. We do. We have just a great friendship and a great chemistry, and we love to work together. Anyways, he a while back, he called me up because Frontiers Records had hired him to be involved with a Jack Russell solo record. Jack Russell being the original singer for Great White. And anyways, so he called me and he asked me if I wanted to help, maybe do some writing with him and, working on it. And I said, of course. But soon, anything nefarious. But basically, then Frontiers Records said, "Hey, do you guys want to see if you can get Mick Brown involved?" We said, "Well, sure." And Mick wanted to do it, so great. Then the name of Robert Mason came up, and Robert had been in the Lynch Mob with George, and I had just done a Warrant record a couple years before, and worked a lot with Robert, so I knew this is going to be great. This is going to be great. So as soon as Robert agreed and we all were in place, we had this thing ready to go, and we just knew there'd be no stopping us, and we approached it with reckless abandon.
And you could tell by the way that the album sounds. I mean, it has it has so many elements too. I mean, for me, because I hear more of the Lynch Mob side of it, but you also hear the the Dawkins elements as well. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, there's naturally there's a little of both, and we also feel like we kind of forged our own ground in there as well, and that to me that makes it very exciting. It's kind of it's true to what we are, but it's not afraid to try new things, and that's a great combination.
And what I was just listening to it again this morning. I've listened to it a few times. They send us the the Holics tracks.
Sure.
To review, and the ones that stand out for me are No Game and when Bulletproof kicks in, that just reminds me like a nice classic Dawkins riff.
Cool. I happen to love both of those songs. Yeah, Bulletproof. It's a cool song. I love that song actually. Well, cool. I'm glad that hit you.
I think it's going to be it's going to do well for you guys out there too. I mean, it's getting that lineup back together. That already draws the attention. I think what Robert brings such a good element to the lineup, and with strong voice and he works very well with you guys as far as how the music comes out and how it's portrayed and how it comes across.
Well, thank you. I couldn't agree more. I mean, yeah, not only is he a great singer, but he's a great writer and he's a great overall musician. I mean, Robert can actually play some pretty damn good guitar and piano. So, I mean, listen, we knew it was going to be strong with Robert involved. I mean, Robert is, and plus, I don't know if you've seen him perform lately, but he is one hell of a frontman now. So, I mean, I got to say, I couldn't feel stronger about this unit.
It was very impressive. I actually caught Robert with Warrant last year here in Pittsburgh, and man, that was the first time I got to see him live, and he was, fantastic. Just nailed everything they did.
He's amazing. He's really, really amazing.
As far as this album, Jeff, who were the main contributors? I mean, was this something that you guys all wrote, or was it one person did the writing, one did the music? How did that come about?
Well, basically what happened, and this is a very common formula for us. George and I got together and wrote all the music, and then Robert came, and he came to spend time with me, and he brought in a lot of lyrical ideas. He had some great ideas to start with, and then he and I just hammered out the lyrics and melodies. Like I say, he was very, very much an important contribution to the whole thing. So it's really a very collaborative effort between George, Robert, and myself.
That's fantastic to hear. I mean, like I said, hearing George, anywhere playing again, and when I saw you guys collaborate, it's just it's just like a perfect fit.
Well,
I had a
thank
chance
you.
to meet George a few years ago, and man, what a really nice guy. I mean, he took time with us,
Mhm.
signed autographs, and just a great musician. I mean, just amazing.
He's a genius musician, and he's a sweet guy that I consider one of my dearest friends. So, yeah, I mean, I can only speak really highly of George. I mean, sure, we've had our arguments over the years and that kind of thing, but I mean, really, I love him so dearly, and he is, and this is not any kind of, this is nothing but the truth. When he's on, he is my favorite rock guitar player in the world by hands down a million times over, and he's just so great. What can I say? The whole idea is get George inspired, and you got something great right there.
He is, and nobody plays like him either, and
I know.
he's such a good fit for that lineup.
He is so unique.
No, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh no, I just said he's very unique. Yes, go ahead.
When you guys went into the studio for this, I know that like you said, you had another opportunity to work with Jeff or George and Mick again, and bring Robert. And what was it like in the studio to record this?
Well, it was great. I mean, working with Mick is very, very comfortable and very fun, and he was really focused. I mean, he came in wanting to kill. For one thing, he heard the music, ahead of time and loved it, which helps. And the great thing about Mick is a good gauge for us. When Mick loves something, I know we're on the right track. Anyway, so he came and he was focused. And George and I, working together in the studio is something we do so naturally that, I mean, it feels great. And then, I had done the Warrant record with Robert, which was great. But I didn't really write on the Warrant record. I've a few ideas here and there maybe, but on this one, really working intensely with Robert was absolutely amazing. So the studio experience was great with everybody. Everybody was focused, determined, wanting to put out their 150%, and I think the results are in the record.
Like I said, I think it's going to be fantastic for you guys.
I hope so. Thank you.
And what I always wanted to ask you, I know you were a major part in the songwriting, for Dokken back in the '80s, and I mean, to me, those albums have really stood the test of time. And when you look back at those days and those albums and your contributions, I mean, what are your feelings about them? I mean, do you still have the let's put it this way, the same do you feel as great about them now as you did back then?
Yeah, well, in some ways even more so. I think, I mean, I really, if I listen now, I'm kind of amazed at certain elements about it, and very proud of it. It's funny that the one thing I really noticed though when I listened to like the Under Lock and Key record, I mean, that's probably in some ways our most successful record. I'm not sure if that or Back for the Attack sold more, but it kind of goes back and forth. But we're probably better known for that record. But the sound of that record just cracks me up to this day. It sounds funny to me when I hear it. It sounds like a very old recording. But I think the songs hold up very, very well. And Don's voice was just great on that stuff. Man, he sounds good when I hear him. Well, I'll give you an example. We're planning on doing, we're doing 3 live shows with the M Machine. We're doing a show in Vegas, in Los Angeles, and in Tucson. And, we're going to do some Dokken tracks. And we pulled out one Dokken track that we haven't done for a while. I won't tell you what it is. But that that Dokken itself didn't play. I don't think it's played since the '80s. Anyways, when I heard the track, the recording sounded really funny to me. But man, Don and George sound so good on it. It's really great. So I'm looking forward to doing some of that material with a more updated sound. And that's kind of exciting. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I'm still very, very proud of it. I hear the faults in it, and most of the faults come with the recording. But there was a reason why we were successful. We had a sound, and we made great music.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Everything that you guys did. I mean, I remember when Lock and Key came out. It was one of those deals where we knew it was coming out that day, and we were at the music store that day.
That's so great. That's so great. I miss those days.
It's amazing how different the industry is now.
It is.
For you guys.
Yeah, in some ways, very sad ways, but hey, you got to roll with the times.
Unfortunately, it's not the same with the CDs and album sales and.
Correct.
Being able to have something physical in my hands was always nice. Read the liner notes, the lyrics, and it kind of tied you into it's a piece of art.
I just realized. Oh, never mind. You're my 1 o'clock. Okay, good. I was worried that okay, I'm good. Never mind. Sorry, I was paranoid for a second. We're good. We're good.
No problem. Well, back then, we saw you guys, 4 times out this way, back in the heyday. And, the one that stands out to me was in '86 was, you guys were opening for Twisted Sister, and we drove out in a snowstorm, to see you guys. And, back then I was always reading, the magazines and, some of the things, and they were always talking about how Dokken was, the premier support band. And it seemed like it took a little longer for you guys to get to where I thought you deserved to be as one of the premier headlining acts. How did you feel about that back then? And was that something that was that you guys kind of fought with, or was that just something that just
no? It's interesting you asked that. That's actually a good question. I haven't really been asked that before, and that's a good question. You know what? It was actually a very deliberate strategy. We had great management back then. We had Cliff Bernstein and Peter Mensch, and they managed Metallica and Def Leppard, and they were great managers. And their feeling was, let's not headline until we know it's going to be a slam dunk big headlining tour. Unfortunately, we broke up before that happened, which was the part that angered me the most about our breaking up. By the way, I thought, wow, this is ever premature, but oh well. But anyways, so we knew it was a strategy. I mean, we were a little frustrated sometimes, like, God, we know we could be headlining, whatever. But it was a strategy, and it was working. It was making us bigger and bigger and bigger. Had we stayed together and done one more record after The Beast from the East came out, we could have headlined, and we would have headlined and probably done real well, as long as it was before the Nirvana thing killed everything. And that was the plan, by the way. But we didn't see it through, which was foolish on our part. But no, I mean, I didn't mind being the opening act. I liked kicking ass, and sometimes it felt like, wow, we're kicking the headliner's ass. It's a good feeling, and I like that.
Yeah, and I remember hearing back then too, as well as there were certain bands that didn't even want to play with you guys because you were blowing them off the stage every night.
The only one I ever heard that about was Richie Blackmore, and because he heard George's solo thing on Paris is Burning, and he didn't want us to play. That's the only time I ever heard that. But hopefully there was more.
Yeah, I thought you guys were great live. I mean, it was always good. It was even from the the '80s when we saw you, even up into Dysfunctional. We saw that tour, and it was that was nice. That was a nice transition that you guys did. From the '80s sound, and bringing those elements into the '90s. On Dysfunctional.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That was a tricky situation for us, but I think we did well. We didn't do as well with the Shadow Life record, but that's okay. You can't win them all.
All right.
But that was definitely what we were trying to do.
Another thing I wanted to bring up is you as a vocalist. I mean, you always stood out. I mean, there was a lot of bands back in that era, and even now. Um, I remember Don even saying that they couldn't cop it live, but you guys always did, and I think that was a lot due to to your vocal prowess.
Well,
And
and Mick Jones too. Mick is quite a singer too.
yeah, you guys always had the good backing vocals, the good hooks, and it always came across good live.
Yeah, well, I think that was one of the reasons why they wanted me in the band is because they definitely pictured it as a vocal band, and it helps to have guys that can sing when you're a vocal band. Um, yeah, so I mean, yeah, it was really fun. I mean, it was there was definitely a magical chemistry in Don and Mick and my voices together. There's no question about that.
And you did. I mean, you as a vocalist, and that's what I wanted to bring up. We had the first War and Peace album when it came out back in '93, and when you do things like that, when you're the vocalist, and how do you feel about being not only the voice but the bass player and the songwriter? Do you like being the principal guy, or would you just rather jump in and just go in and play?
I love being the principal guy when it suits it. I kind of, I'm the kind of person that whatever is in front of me, I like to do to the best of my ability, and I enjoy pretty much every facet. So if it's the main guy, that's it. If it's collaborating with other people, I love doing that. I don't have, I don't have the kind of thing where I need to be the principal guy at all time, and I don't have the kind of thing where I need to be the support guy at all time. I kind of like to do what I do, and I mean, I tend to be in most of the projects I am. I tend to be either the musical director or the producer or whatever. That's kind of always been a thing that sort of fell on me, and I love doing that. So whether I'm singing or the main guy or not, I'm always kind of uh, pretty much a driving force in the musical situation, and that's very comfortable for me, and I'm very very lucky to be there.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and how you're looked upon, from your fellow musicians, and that's you know being invited. I mean, you played in so many different bands. You had a chance to collaborate with different musicians and be part of those things. And what's it like for a guy like you to go into, like, say, from Dawkins, and then have a chance to work with Dio and Mick Jones and Foreigner. What's it like to play with guys like that?
Well, it's great. It's tremendous. I mean, I'm I'm very fortunate. I've gotten to work with a lot of really, really, really great people. Um, Ronnie was. I mean, not only was he, is he probably the greatest metal voice of all times, and he was a tremendous musician, an incredible band leader. I learned so much about leading a band from him, which has helped me, because now in Foreigner, I'm the musical director, which means I don't lead the band, but I have a lot of important decisions that I have to make. And Ronnie kind of in a way, there was a part of me that was sort of the musical director in Dio, but not really, not certainly not officially. But I learned so much from him that when you know he knew every facet of everything that was going on. I've never met anybody that was more aware of everything. And then plus he was a dear friend. So I mean that's kind of an unbeatable combo. Mick Jones has a very different approach than Ronnie, but Mick is just got flawless vision. He knows exactly how it should be, and his standard. He will not let up his standard at all, and I have so much respect for that. So I mean, I've worked with some amazing people, and I don't take that for granted.
and guys, that have work ethics like that, musicians, you know, that's the reason they have so much staying power. I mean, Dio, you know, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, the greatest metal voice of all time, but his music is going to stand the test of time, for 100 years from now. And the same with Foreigner. I mean, I think that's why,
Oh yeah.
these bands can, that it's always about the songs. And I think that's,
Right. I think you're exactly right. And in both cases, you have guys that were very conscious of the songs.
Exactly. I wanted to ask you this too. What is Kelly Hansen like to work with? I mean, I've been a fan of his, since the Hurricane EP came out in '85. So I got to see those guys a few times.
Kelly's great. I mean, he's probably the best frontman out there right now. I feel he's incredible, and he's a machine every night. The guy just goes out there and nails every note. And he's a sweetheart. I mean, we're good friends. I mean, God, we've had 14 years together now, so we're very close. He's great. I mean, he's as professional as you can be. He's as hardworking as can be, and he's as dedicated as can possibly be. And he's committed to making Foreigner the greatest thing it can possibly be. And you can't ask for anything more than that.
It's great. I mean, I hear the stuff that you guys are doing out there in Foreigner, and it sounds fantastic. I mean, it's like the music hasn't missed a beat from the heyday until now.
Well, thank you, John. Appreciate that.
You mentioned earlier, Jeff, that what does the future hold? For the things that you're doing, and like you mentioned, End Machine will be playing shows on the West Coast. Is that going to be expanded on? Is it going to be like a small U.S. tour or anything?
Well, I mean, the tricky thing with anything I do outside of Foreigner is time and scheduling. So a full-on tour, I can't imagine that, but I can definitely imagine more shows at some point with End Machine. Certainly another record. But I mean, my main gig is Foreigner, and I'm going to be doing that the next few years. Until as long as that one lasts, because it's a great gig, and it's a great band, and it's got this legacy of songs that are amazing. So that's important. But for me, pursuing these other things, I consider End Machine more of a band than a project, because it is a band, and we are going to go do shows. So we're going to prove that we're the real thing. Where it goes from there, it's going to depend a little bit on the opportunities that we get. But certainly I plan on hopefully doing more shows with that at some point. Like I say, definitely another record. I have another project coming out with Reb Beach and Rob McCauley and Matt Starr that'll probably be coming out at the end of this year. Nice. That's absolutely phenomenal. It's just unbelievable. Reb is just on fire, and Robin McCauley, you've never heard him sound better. He sounds so great on this. Anyway, so that'll be coming out later this year. We're done with recording. Just has to be mixed now. So I've got that coming, and like I say, just lots of touring with Foreigner, and as many of these recording projects as I can do. And then in the case of the End Machine, hopefully approaching it more and more like a band, and hopefully playing some more, and certainly, like I say, certainly doing another record and taking it as far as we possibly can.
That's fantastic. I can't wait to hear that. That's a great group of musicians.
Right.
I have to ask you this real quick. I know you hear about it all the time, but you being in Rockstar, that movie, I've seen it several times. And what's funny is I always point out to everybody, hey, that's Jeff Pilson. And then we point out the different guys in there, and Bloss on drums. When you look back at that movie, do you think it captured the true essence of what life is like as a musician?
Well, I will say I think it did more so than most movies do, because most movies do a pretty piss poor job of showing reality. But I got to give the director, Stephen Herrick, a lot of credit, because during the entire filming of the movie, he kept asking us, he said, look, I want this to be as close to real as possible. Now, they took some Hollywood, liberties in a few spots, but overall, he would ask us frequently, would that happen or what would happen? And you know what? He would so listen to what we had to say, that I think the end result is that you have much closer to reality than a lot of movies. And I think that's one of the reasons why people kind of flock to that movie. It's sort of become a cult classic over the years. And I think that's why, because I think it's closer. Of course, it's not going to be exactly like it, but it definitely had some moments that were, and that's what made it fun.
That's cool. That is cool. I know we don't have that much time, but last thing I wanted to ask you is, you know, over your whole career, and when you look back on everything, and when you come to the future with all the great things that you're doing as a musician, as songwriter, producer, what do you want the legacy of Jeff Pilson to be?
Well, I mean, in an ideal world, I would love to either produce, write, or be involved in a classic recording that stood the test of time forever. I mean, hopefully, Dokken has done that to some extent, but I'd love to be involved in something that had huge mass appeal. That's of course always a goal, especially as a writer. But other than that, that's the big goal. Other than that, just making music that stands the test of time, that I'm proud of, that is honest, and yet creative. If I can do that, I'll be a happy guy.
I think you've done very well, my friend. I mean, I appreciate everything that you do, and from a fan's perspective, I'm always going to be a fan. You always have my support, and I wish you nothing but the best in the future, and everything that you do musically, and I hope to see you guys in Pittsburgh, whether it be in Foreigner or End Machine or whatever you do, man. But I wish you the best. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, John. I really appreciate it. Good talking to you, and maybe I'll talk to you when the Red Beach project comes out.
Man, I can't wait to hear it.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
All right, Jeff. Have a good day. Thanks, man.
Take care. Bye-bye.